Well, Jamie's primary relationship at school was with Pretty Pasha. They're an odd couple, you know. Jamie totally being kind of confident, out there, sassy. Pretty, a young Muslim girl who chooses to wear a hijab, who wants to be a doctor and go to Cambridge, you know. And we kind of asked ourselves right at the very beginning, you know, we were kind of working on it, why did these two people find each other? How did they find each other, you know? And I think they, in some ways, they both oddly perceive themselves as slight outsiders, you know. Although Jamie has friendships and relationships within the school, he still perceives himself slightly on the fringes of school, and I think Pretty does too, you know. And sometimes they both get pushed into the fringes, so I think they found themselves there. And I also think that Pretty, in many ways, has a very certain goal. She says to Jamie, "You've never asked me why I wear hijab." And Jamie says, "Because of your dad." And Pretty actually kind of pulls him up and says, no, you've never really asked me. And he says, "Well, why do you wear a hijab?" And she says, "Because it keeps me simple. It frames who I am, and it's my choice." And I think at that moment in time, she's arriving at a place that she goes, who am I? What is my identity? How do I fit in? And where do I feel comfortable in myself? And I think she's found that place that is comfortable with herself and knowing how she wants to go forward. And I think that's very grounding for Jamie. So they find each other in a kind of grounding place. So I think it's about balance, really. It's about finding relationships that have balance in it, you know. And I think that's fundamental to the Pretty and Jamie story. I was in this shop with an older man, an older gay man actually, and immediately the older gay man is honest with him, straightforward with him, accepting of him, and sometimes challenging him, you know, challenging where he's at. He says he wants to go to school prom and drag, and it takes his breath, this man, you're doing what, you know, takes his breath in place so much that he swears, you know, but then says, okay, if you want to do this, I want to make sure that you feel that you can do this and be safe, because it can be dangerous, the world out there. He gives him advice that's based on his own baggage, as opposed to advice that's based actually on where Jamie is now. So he tells him what he really needs to do is be fierce, put on a mask. He can't, because people are going to take him down unless he meets them with ferocity, unless he creates this creature that can take anybody down. He's going to be met with people who are going to be against him. So he's got to be ready. And in many ways, that's the downfall of Jamie, that bit of advice, you know, because what he really needed to say, which he then does and discovers in the journey of the play, is that actually he doesn't need to put that mask on. He needs to just be himself and accept who he is as himself. It's issues that we're all dealing with, you know, and many young people live in broken families, live in families in which their parents no longer are together, and they struggle to negotiate that on a very fundamental level, you know. The most fundamental relationships we have are with our mother and father, you know. His dad in our story is somebody we've created. I imagine Jamie's dad going to a particular generation with particular prejudices, particular culture around him, and he finds how his son wants to express himself difficult for himself. I think Jamie, even as a 16-year-old, gets that on a fundamental level and wishes it to be different. You know, wishes his dad could see him as he does. Jamie's dad himself is struggling. You know, he may act out, and he may act out awfully, which he does, you know, but it's part of his struggle, you know, and his own identity, you know. So he struggled with Jamie being an effeminate young man who wants to wear dresses, who wants to go to school prom in a dress, who wants to be a drag queen. He's somehow challenging his own identity. But Jamie's still looking at all time for the fundamental relationship with his father. I think he also negotiates very early in the piece. He sings a song called Wall in My Head. And very early in the song, where he accepts a moment in his life when he was 8 years old that he was shamed by his father. He was caught dressing up by his dad, putting on a little lipstick, putting on the dress, and shamed by him. And that shame went into his body. And he's carried that shame. And he's now a 16-year-old boy and still has that moment of shame. And he accepts that actually that little tiny thought that's been implanted is now growing. And we all experience that. Shame comes into us at all different times, from all different people, at all different angles. And it's how we negotiate that shame is really important. I think what Jamie learns through the piece is that, well, his mom literally says in the last scene, your dad's an idiot, you know, and I'm sorry for him. I'm sorry that he can't see you as beautiful as you are. And I think Jamie hopefully comes to that realisation that actually it's his dad's stuff and it's his dad's issues and his dad's got to do some growing. And maybe he will, and maybe he won't. And it's a place of acceptance that he has to arrive on himself that goes, this is my dad, this is where he's coming from. I may or may not be able to change that, but that's his stuff. Who I am is to do with my thoughts and my acceptance of myself. We don't even know.